Good day, YouTube, and welcome to another episode of the Albino Rhino Beer Review. You have the Rhino, you have Katie, you have Alicia. Guess what, Alicia? I love you. That's what we're drinking. I love you. From Two Crows. It's a Brett Saison. So it's a Brettanomyces Saison. So we know how much you both like Saisons from when we did that beer festival a few days ago.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're better than IPAs, but they don't get much higher.
So, Brett, I'm starting to be curious if a lot of these beers have Brett in them, and that might have been what the problem was with the first one. Because Brett is a yeast strain that takes over. If you are not 100% accurate on your cleanliness, it just overtakes the entire brewery, and then everything has Brett. Actually, there's a story about Brett. The beer festival you went to with me, the very first Project Brew you went to with me, there was one student, and you weren't allowed to brew with Brett at Niagara College because of that, because it would take over the entire building, and it would take like a week to sanitize the entire building if it took over. So the rule was you couldn't brew with Brett. Well, he wanted to make a Brett Saison. So he waited till somebody wasn't watching, and he pitched Brett. It took over the entire brewery. It ruined about 15 batches of beer. And then he argued that the first year guys should be the ones that have to clean the brewery, not him.
Yeah, no. Please tell me he did not pass.
He did pass.
Really? Why?
I don't know. That should have been an automatic
If you
fail.
can't follow the one rule they got, that seems like you should probably fucking fail.
I mean, the college is pretty open. You can do pretty much whatever you want. You can't use Brett. That's the one rule they really had.
And he yet still did it.
Right?
Yes, and they the college buys all your ingredients, right? So they have an entire fridge full of every yeast you're allowed to use that they can get.
How did he get Brett?
He brought it in himself.
Yeah, no, that should have been an automatic
That's
fail.
even worse because you have to go out of your way to defy the one rule.
And you know,
have.
people are always like, well, how was he not being watched? How did they not know? Well, there's what, six instructors, and there's 18 people per course, and they have four courses going at once because they have all the different years. So,
But here's the problem with that. He's not an elementary school child. He was a grown-ass man, and knew better, had the rule, should have been able to follow the fucking rule.
oh, that has horse blanket all over it.
And
Give
then
that
he
a
was
sniff.
basically like a little kid, like, don't touch it, and he just, like, no.
That smells like my grandfather's property. Go into the horse
Again,
stables.
Why do we do this?
Why is this a
Why
thing?
is appealing?
Right? It's like putting mulch in your beer. It just doesn't work
That's
for me. I
been
don't.
peed on by a horse.
I don't want it.
You really like that mulch beer, don't
The
you?
mulch beer was fucking awful, and I still don't understand why mulch is an appealing thing to add. To
And they're
beer.
still mad at me. They're like, that beer was out of date. Da, 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 da. I'm like, I just bought it from you like 2 weeks before we did it. Well, it was out of date. I guess. So why did you sell it to me?
But you can be mad all you want at my opinion. I don't understand why you would want to drink a cup of mulch. It's not going to change whether that beer is in date or not.
Cheers.
I don't even need to
I'm trying to take advantage of you. Like,
You don't need alcohol for that. Oh god! And if you're gonna do that with alcohol, choose better alcohol.
okay, here's the first thing I'm going to say. So 2 days ago, you had 3 Saisons. I still think that is in the top 50% of those 3 Saisons. I think only the tea Saison was better.
Right? That's not pleasant.
I didn't say it was great. I said it was better than 2 of the 3 Saisons you had 2 days ago.
I don't know about that, but
The first sip is where you get all that that horse blanket barnyard flavor, and then it's fairly dry after that. Like there's no flavor in my mouth right now.
no, it's still horse blanket.
Flavor now? No flavor now. It almost feels like there's a little bit of clove in there too. I don't taste clove, but it just dries out the back of your palate.
Like, don't
clove
get me
would.
wrong, I've had far worse that didn't make me retch on the first sip, but
Let's see here. Barley, wheat, hops, rye. What's after rye? There's rye. Over here now.
hops, lactobacillus yeast, lemon verbena.
Wait, you didn't. Okay, so lactobacillus. The yeast must be the. They must not have just wrote Brettanomyces. Because see, you have saison Brett, so it's a Brett saison. Brett saison. But you don't actually claim the Brettanomyces. Usually, if you're
But
going
again, if it took over the brewery and they just put it on there because it was like, well, it took over.
So I mean, and knowing that lactobacillus is in here, I don't really get a sour flavor.
I get bitter more than anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
like
just doesn't.
lactobacillus is what you usually use to kettle sour. It usually will sour out the beer. I don't really get a lot of sour on this. I get barnyard funk and dry. And that's scary looking. Like thick, scary
Again,
looking.
it looks like they don't filter anything.
A lot of craft breweries don't. And I mean, that's perfectly fine. The only problem with that is when you're taking from the tanks, it's almost always bottom fed, right? So somebody's going to get a lot more sludge in their beer than other people.
Yeah. Well, we seem to have gotten rid of sludge.
Like I said, for me, it comes off very drying, and now after my third sip, it's like that oak tongue depressor drying. You know when the doctor's like, say and then your whole mouth is just dried out? I get like that. Out of 10 on this for me, I'd give it a 6.5. I have no problem with it, I just wouldn't buy it.
I don't know. I give it like a 3.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfectly fine.
Don't want to drink barnyard.
Okay, thank you guys. Goodbye. Oh, my balls.